Hi everyone, my name is Anthony Cummins and I've created this video in support of this book, the Book of Samurai. Now, what am I going to talk about today? I want to talk about the Goshi. This is the 5 aspects, if you will, of the way of the samurai or the samurai's mind. So what I'm going to do is go through these one at a time. Welcome to this. This video is about the way. Now, that's Tao, or Tao as some people like to say. People argue between the D and the T. It doesn't matter. Different people say different things. There are different trends on the same. Now, what is the way? The way is difficult to describe. Now, of course, you're all going to jump to the classic quote of, you know, it's impossible to describe the way, it's indescribable. So, in my rudimentary understanding, I'm not being modest, I mean literally my rudimentary understanding, I have gone and researched it, but not massively deep, but it appears that the way is a cosmic pathway that exists outside of time and reality and space, what the universe is structured inside of. And the best way to describe this is like you dig channels of water in a field, if you will, and when you pour the water in, they flow in the way. And that's the idea. The universe is flowing through this system, and that you as an individual inside the universe are actually floating. Let's call it, imagine you're in a canal and you're swimming, you know, these waters, and if you try to swim upstream, you go nowhere. And if you try to swim across ways, you're going the wrong way. But if you just let go, and if you're trying to swim forward but you're trying to race to get there faster than the flow of water, it won't work. The idea is that the way is set, and you, with what's called Mu Bei or Wu Bei, I think, in Chinese, or Wu Hei, it's non-action, which means you don't swim against the tide. If something happens and it comes up against you, you don't, fight it off. You go with whatever situation. But it also has a different meaning, if you will. Not different, but an attached meaning, where you as a person have to follow the way, which means correctness. Now, in the next few points, we'll go through these, and these will constitute the way. So first of all, you've got idea 1, which is don't fight anything, go with the preordained path set for you by the cosmic universe, if you will. And the second one is that you have to follow the way, which is, righteousness, virtue, fidelity, all that type of stuff, which we're going to go through in the next few points. So, remember, the way is a Taoist construct, but it exists in Buddhism and possibly Confucianism. It basically infiltrates everything, and it's set before time and space, and it's set after time and space. It's outside of our reality, but it's what guides our reality. And for you personally, the way is everything. That means the way you act, the way you speak, the way you breathe, the way you eat, the way you interact. Everything is based in the way. And idea is the cosmic construct, if you will. I'm not going to give it a personification like a deity or he, but the cosmic construct knows what you are doing and fully understands everything, and it sees all, and it knows when you're going against the way, or it knows when you're with the way, or when you're trying to race ahead of the way. The idea is that you stay in the right position, going in the right direction, free-flowing through life, not laziness, free-flowing and interacting with everything in a non-egotistical way. I hope that helps. That's the way. Now, virtue. Right, over the next few points, it's going to get a bit difficult because some of them, they're so close together that you think, what is the difference? You sort of understand the word, we get the concept of the word, but what's the actual difference between them? So I've gone through the thesaurus looking at the different versions. So today we're going to work on virtue. So this is high moral behaviour, respectability, trustworthiness, noble, or upstanding. Now, so what this means is basically you as a person have a noble bearing, you interact with people in a noble way, people know you're not deceitful, they know you're not lying, they understand that what you say is what you mean, and you're a very trustworthy person. But when you interact them with all 5, and there's actually 7 overall, but the main goshi, the main 5, you then build up a very, very strong character. So benevolence, right, this is actually well-meaning kindness, consideration, thoughtfulness, goodwill, public spirit, altruistic, and compassion. So let's have a look at this. Before we talked about virtue, which is a moral compass, like I'm morally correct, you know, I'm stand-upish, I am not lying, so internal things are not coming out negative to the world at all. So benevolence is basically how you interact with different people. So are you kind to people? Are you thoughtful about what you do with other people? Like, oh, I'm going to do something. Like I remember somebody, we were at a wedding once and there wasn't enough food. The caterers just hadn't supplied enough food for the amount of people. So I remember somebody had got their food, put it on the side, and they went to the toilet. And this guy from London just nicked the food. Just like, so what? They went to the toilet, I had it. And I was absolutely, I'm remembering that now, 10 years later, because I was outraged. I was like, what are you doing, you know? And everybody thought so. Like, he was like one out of the rest of the English people were all very polite, like, it's okay. He was a proper idiot, and we just didn't think of him as thoughtful. So he would have had no benevolence. His actions towards other people were not benevolent. They were not thoughtful. They were not public spirited, and they didn't have consideration. So remember, I'm going through the thesaurus here to check, to give you a difference between them all. Righteousness, right, let's look at righteousness then. So righteousness from the thesaurus is no guilt, worthy, pure, noble, blameless, innocence. Now I want to talk about this, the difference between between innocence and naivety. Naivety means you don't know what's going to happen. You're like, oh wow, look at that snake, I'm going to put my hand and stroke the snake, you know, its tail's rattling, and you're like, I'll stroke the pretty snake. That is naivety. You don't know what's going to happen because you've never encountered this before. You're going to get bitten and die. The end. Whereas innocence is not that. It's not not understanding. It's understanding something, like but not doing it and not dirtying your soul inside, if you will. So for example, if you've gone and taken loads of drugs, you've had too much sex, you've sort of like stolen from people, that is a loss of innocence. That will always be a stain on someone's character. If they've done those things, they'll be like, okay, you know, God, in them days I took drugs, or in those days I sort of, you know, stole from a bank, or, you know, whatever it is. There's a loss of innocence. So for you, or the way of the samurai, is to keep that innocence, is to recognize, to not be naive. That means have knowledge, but pull back and be like, I'm not going to do that because it will stain my internal, you know, holiness, spirituality, makeup, consciousness, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter about the religious connotations. Just anything you do that is negative stains you internally, and thus you've got to have righteousness. So let's talk about courtesy. Right, courtesy. So here we've got, from the thesaurus, we've got good manners, civility, good breeding, cordiality, geniality, refined, diplomatic. So let's try and backtrack a bit. The way is, you know, following the way of the universe. Virtue is high moral behavior. Benevolence is well-meaning kindness. Righteousness is to have no guilt, to be innocent inside. But courtesy is your interaction with others. So there's a little bit of a crossover here between benevolence and courtesy, because both of those imply interacting with other people. So for example, having good manners. So you may be innocent inside, but do you have the correct social manners? Do you have the correct social manners for the people around you? And how do you interact with the crowd or with people? Are you diplomatic? Like, oh, okay, you know, let's work through it. Or are you just an idiot? You're like, rah, 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 rah. Do you have the diplomatic skills to push through a situation in a cordial way, you know, while keeping innocence and while keeping benevolence inside? So this one is a little bit difficult. I always find this one difficult because courtesy and benevolence for me are almost the same thing. It's very difficult to decide between the two. So public spiritedness is benevolent, with other people, but the same as diplomaticness, good breeding. It's like they're so close that they're almost the same, but there's definitely a difference there. There is a difference, but it's an overlap, I think. Now, wisdom. This is experience, knowledge, insight, perception, good sense, good judgment, and prudence. Now, basically, knowledge is information. Wisdom is the application of information at the correct time. So I know how to make a nuclear bomb, right? That is not wisdom, that's intelligence. Knowing when and when not to use a nuclear bomb is wisdom. Yeah. For example, being able to make poison or drugs or alcohol is intelligence and knowledge, but it's not wisdom. It's the application of that and how you use it. So understanding how to make alcohol and then getting blottoed and vomiting everywhere and knifing your girlfriend because she annoyed you and she dies and you go to prison. That is not wisdom. So basically, make sure you apply the knowledge you have learnt and in a correct way, and that will give you wisdom. Fidelity. Okay, this is the last of the 7. And we have loyalty to a cause, loyalty to a person, homage, fealty, and allegiance. That means you're loyal. Now, we spoke about loyalty before in another video, and loyalty is a very difficult thing to do. You're only loyal when it's negative to you. You're not loyal when it's positive to you. That is just, if it gives you positivity, that means that you are doing it for your own good. Loyalty is tested when all around is not to your liking and you still are loyal. So please know the difference. One of my favourite things to read or go through is Beowulf. And in Beowulf at the end, he has many warriors throughout his life. He wins many victories. But when he gets to the end and he fights the dragon in the cave, because the thief has stole the gold. This is the basis of The Hobbit. But basically, Beowulf goes in and all of his shield men, all his banner men or whatever, are stand back and they're shamed. But one of them goes forward and he says, we were given gifts before, but now we have to repay them with loyalty. And I'm going to die because this dragon is a poisonous fire-breathing entity, but I will stand by my lord. And they share a shield together and they fight the dragon. And that's the idea of loyalty. Before, everybody was with him and you think, oh, they're loyal. No, they're not. They're benefiting. Loyalty is when you no longer benefit, but you still stand by that person. Then it's up to you how long you are loyal for. If that person becomes ridiculously stupid, then you can say, I'm withdrawing my loyalty. Or you stay loyal to the end. Natori would say stay loyal to the end because he's a generational retainer in Japan. He was not a single generation retainer. He was 3rd generation. So, he's like, let's stay loyal to the Tokugawa family because there's no way, we as Natori family would do otherwise, so to the death. Right, just a quick roundup. So the 7 are, even though it's Goshi, which means 5 sort of elements, there are actually 7 underneath it. The reason for this is there are actually 5 major headings, but it's subdivided and becomes 7. So we've got the way, we've got virtue, then we've got benevolence, righteousness, courtesy, wisdom, and fidelity. So, shall we have a quick recap? So the way means interact with the universe and your life in the correct manner and go through life being correct. Virtue means, inside you have high moral behaviour, you're noble, you're a stand-up guy. Benevolence means you're kind to people, you've got consideration, you've got thoughtfulness for others. Righteousness means you're innocent inside, you've got no guilt, you're pure, you're worthy. Courtesy means you've got good manners, you understand the manners, sitting at a table correctly, it's when to take your shoes on, when to take them off, how to be diplomatic with people. Wisdom is the application of knowledge in an experienced way for the benefit of people or the benefit of you in a positive way. And fidelity is to be loyal to a cause. So what I'm going to do now is put up these in order and on the screen, and if you have all those working together, heaven rewards you. That's the point. Heaven will give you a reward for working in this way. So you don't strive for your rewards, you work in this way, going out into the world being virtuous, and heaven goes, okay, reward, reward, reward. That's the concept of the samurai's understanding of the way the universe worked. I hope you enjoyed that, guys. That's the end of the Goshi, the 5 fundamental elements. You will find them on page 6 of the Book of Samurai, and it goes through in a much more complex way than I have put it. I've just broke it down for you, and it talks about the different ones, and obviously, as you can see, I've done my notes in there. So get the book, have a look, see what you think. Do you agree, do you disagree with the way that should go? Blah blah blah. Right. Okay, my name's Anthony Cummins. Subscribe, come and join me on Instagram. I've sort of left Twitter a bit and gone more onto Instagram because Instagram's much more fun. You don't have to read people's complaints, you know what I mean, and stain your inside with that. So basically, come over to Instagram, have a look, have a chat, and we'll talk over there. And if you're interested in this and in following the ways of Natori Ryu, which we've re-established the school with permission from Japan, you can join us at Natori Ryu Hub.